everybody, it's Laura, and welcome to the class of 74. I hope you've been dangling in suspense all week, wondering what's happened. When we left, our friends, Cynthia, her best friend Annabelle, Mimi, and Annabelle's brother Greg were leaving to go to Forest Hills, and a police car drove up, and out came Detective Fiducia, and he brings Evan and Katie and not Fred into the school. Ha ha ha. Okay, let's go see what happens. Have fun, and I'll see you on the other side. Season 2, Episode 4, Driving to New York. They were all quiet when they drove away from Brighton High School. Greg kept looking in the rearview mirror as if he expected a police car to appear behind them at any minute. Cynthia did not have that fear. Between her parents' permission and Dr. Mulin's blessing on going to Forest Hills, she felt invincible. Thankfully, too, she had permitted Greg to hang his blazer in her window, so Detective Fiducia hadn't seen her, which made her feel safer somehow. How did Evan, Katie, and not Fred get caught skipping school? And why wasn't Dee Dee in the police car, too? They were planning to take the Whitakers' boat out today. Greg said, "Oh, yeah? Where do they keep it?" "Westcott Cove, just over the border in Stamford." "I think there's only a boat launch in Westcott Cove." He laughed. "Don't tell me they brought the boat to school on a trailer or something. That would be a strong hint." "No, they have a private mooring," Cynthia said. "What kind of boat?" "Chris Craft, 22 Dory, I think it's called." "What kind of engine?" "Well, I know it's a V8, like a car, you know. I think it's a Chrysler." "Inboard, then," Greg said. "Is there a bathroom?" Mimi asked. "You mean ahead," Greg said. "I mean, is there a bathroom or do you have to jump in the water?" "You have to jump in the water," Cynthia said. "There's no cabin, but there's a great canopy thing you can put up. Dr. and Mrs. Whitaker like to go places in it, like go over to Long Island and have dinner. Sometimes they'll just go fishing and drift around, reading and dozing. But for Evan, it's all speed and water skiing, though he does fish sometimes." Did she hate Evan or did she love Evan? Annabelle looked at her. "I thought you said Dr. Whitaker was selling the boat." "Supposedly this weekend." "Well, why?" It wasn't Cynthia's place to tell anyone Dr. Whitaker was still married to his old wife, the mother of Evan's 3 half-brothers, and that the Whitakers had to sell their house and their boat to meet their legal bills and to permanently buy off the old Mrs. Whitaker so Dr. Whitaker could get a divorce and marry Evan's mother so Evan wouldn't be illegitimate anymore. Cynthia thought it all seemed to be happening very quickly. But then she thought it only seemed to be happening quickly because Evan had only just learned about all this. Dr. Whitaker and Mrs. Whitaker, known him for years. She wondered how Katie would feel about Evan having a Jewish mother. She wondered if Evan would tell his new girlfriend that he was illegitimate, too. "Oh, stop it," she told herself. "What does it matter? You're just being pissy." "Ground control calling Cynthia," Greg called, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. "I'm sorry, what?" "Why are the Whitakers selling their boat?" Annabelle asked. "They've been talking about getting a new boat," Cynthia lied. "Though somebody must have made an offer they couldn't refuse. Maybe the new one will have a head," Mimi said. Greg got on the Connecticut Turnpike, Route 95. Then he turned on the radio, FM, to WPLJ, And then he turned it up because Smiling Faces by The Undisputed Truth was playing. So immediately the girls all raised their arms and pretended to do interpretive dancing with a lot of hand motions because Brenda Joyce Evans, Billy Ray Calvin, and Joe Harris had appeared on American Bandstand last month, dancing in white satin bell-bottoms and long, flowing white satin tunics that moved like capes and streamers and things. It was sort of psychedelic. When they got to the line, "Beware," they joined in, pretending to hold a microphone when Brenda Joyce Evans got a line to herself. "Beware of the handshake that has a snake." "Can you dig it? Can you dig it?" Cynthia sang. Then Joe sang his lines, "To be beware of the pat on the back," and everybody clapped twice. "Smiling faces." So it went on. "Who wants a cigarette?" Annabelle asked when the song was over. "I do," Mimi said. "I do," Cynthia said. "Mom took her carton to Washington, D.C. with her." "My mom left these in the car last night," Annabelle said, bringing out a pack of Virginia Slims. "So I grabbed them." Annabelle handed one to Cynthia and one to Mimi while Greg pushed in the lighter. Cynthia had matches, so she lit one and held it out for Annabelle. Annabelle giggled. "She thinks she left them at your house, Cynthia." "Oh, great. Now I'm going to be accused of stealing them." "No, she won't say boo because your parents have too much going on." "She's still going to think I stole them," Cynthia said. "And your mother is just about the last person on earth I would steal anything from because my mother would throw me in jail if I did." Mimi used the car lighter to light her cigarette. She took a puff, leaned forward to put the lighter back in, exhaled smoke, and crossed her legs in Greg's direction. "I stole a whole pack of cigarettes from a lady who cheats at tennis," she said conversationally to Greg. "Way to go," Greg said. He reached into the glove compartment and pulled out a pack of Tiparillos, the small cigars. "I got these out of Dad's stash in the garage," he called to Annabelle. "I almost grabbed a bottle of scotch, but I chickened out. Just too big." "No, you can't do big," Cynthia said, nodding. Whenever someone asked her to bring some hard liquor somewhere, she almost always tried to siphon off a little vodka because her parents drank gallons of it. But she couldn't take a whole lot because, as her brother had tipped her off about, their parents could tell in a second if the vodka wasn't right. In fact, a complaint once by her parents to the club manager about diluted vodka ended in the discovery of a whole side liquor business being operated out of the Woods End Beach Club. The problem was what to put the vodka in to carry it safely to the destination. The jar thing never worked for Cynthia. It was too big, or it broke, or something. She thought she had found the ideal solution with an almost empty prescription bottle of Benadryl cough syrup. The bottle's thick brown glass disguised whatever fluid was in it. So she carefully washed it out and poured vodka into it. But then later her mother saw it on the kitchen counter and brought it back upstairs to put back in the medicine cabinet. She needed to remember to do something about that bottle. "Song!" Greg cried, turning up the volume. "This is the new guy." The new guy was a guy called Rod Stewart, and the song was Maggie May. Cynthia's brow furrowed. "His voice sure is raspy. Think he's going to make it?" "He already has," Greg said. "The song's like 15 this week." Took a couple of stanzas, but the girls learned enough of Maggie May to join in singing. When Maggie May and Rod faded away, Annabelle said, "You should throw those darn Tiparillos in Dad's face, Greg, and tell him to ditch that account before we're social pariahs." Annabelle watched as her brother put the plastic holder of a Tipperillo into his mouth and pushed the lighter in. My English teacher's using that astronaut ad as an example of, what do you call it when you're making a profit from something? Profiteering? Greg asked, clenching the plastic holder between his teeth. He lit the Tipperillo. I nearly died when Mrs. Tuttle held it up in front of the class and said it was a prime example of profiteering on the sexual exploitation of women. What ad? Mimi asked, turning around. I know which one she's talking about, Greg told Mimi. A guy and a girl are lying on a shag carpet. It's a print ad. They're lying on the floor, Cynthia said. Ugliest shag rug you ever saw, Greg said. Anyway, they're watching Armstrong walking on the moon on TV. But they're not watching anything, Annabelle interrupted. He's completely dressed and smoking, and she's lying there with her boobs falling out of her skimpy dress. And what does this have to do with English? Greg asked. The language. The copy beneath. He's saying, a woman astronaut? What on earth for? And she's saying, well, certainly not to cook, and is looking at him like she's about to tear his pants off. Cynthia cracked her window open before they all expired from smoke inhalation. Mrs. Tuttle told the class it borders on pornography. Oh, please, Greg groaned. It does not, and it's a lot better than the old campaign. There isn't nearly as much cleavage in this one. And that makes it okay, Annabelle said. I think we should get some chest action from the guys and see how they like being compared, Mimi said. Cynthia was sympathetic to Mimi's situation. She didn't know what she would do if she was flat-chested as well as have a big nose. Then Cynthia started to laugh, remembering the time she slept over at the Fitzgeralds and World War III broke out in their neighborhood over Tipperillo. Yeah, same company again. It's 3 or 4 years ago. Greg, you remember when that guy came to your house and set up all those easels in your living room? For your dad to review all the mock-ups for the Tipperillo campaign? The one they had to end? They need to end this one, Annabelle said, before someone finds out our father is the mastermind behind what the English department is calling smut. Are you talking about the should you offer a woman a Tipperillo? Greg asked Cynthia. Cynthia tried to remember. Is that the one Mrs. Visser picketed Miss America contest about? Yes, he laughed. It's not funny, Greg, Annabelle said. I'm going to be a social pariah. Richie Darren stole one of the markups, remember, Annabelle? And Dad made me go up in his treehouse to look for it. And it was there. Begrudgingly, Annabelle smiled a little. He stole the marine biologist. He was such a weird kid. Nothing weird about the marine biologist, though, Greg said. She was gorgeous. I bet guys are still jerking off over her. Annabelle slapped her brother's shoulder. Don't be crude. It's bad enough we have a pornographer as a father. Cynthia thought about the big folder Evan had of pictures he had torn out of magazines. The top were all sports-related. But as you worked your way down towards the bottom, which Cynthia had, while sitting in one of the storage units after she helped move the Whitakers' stuff out to accommodate the Brighton Historical Society's fundraiser, she noticed how the pictures changed from sports to beautiful, sexy women. Cynthia didn't like to think about what people she knew fantasized about any more than she could stand the idea of anyone knowing what sexual thoughts ran through her head. It was all dangerous territory in her book, leading to one of two paths, pregnancy or utter social ruin. She had a lot of sexual thoughts. She couldn't help it. It was her body's fault. Ever since 7th grade, when her hip young math teacher, that she didn't even like, started wearing tight pants, particularly in the crotch, her thoughts about him one night in combination with touching herself a certain way, had eventually come to jolt her like she was being shocked with 1,000 volts of electricity. The event had left her stunned the whole next day. It was probably the only day of Cynthia's whole life she had ever been quiet. Mrs. Tuttle called the ad revolting. Dad's got to make a living. Very good living, Cynthia thought. Well, her dad made less money, but at least he didn't have to make those ads. The agency shouldn't exploit women for money. I don't see you returning any of your allowance, Greg said. He had a point. You couldn't complain about how the money was made and then accept it and spend it. Well, I guess people could. People did that all the time, didn't they? Cynthia leaned towards Annabelle. What does your mother say about those ads? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. As long as her charge cards are paid, she could care less. Byram Avenue, Greg called. Last exit before the toll. Who wants a beer? All three girls said, I do. But then Mimi asked what was with the toll. What did that have to do with beer? Greg flicked the turning signal on, drifted over to the right-hand lane. It's the principle of the thing, Mimi. We can give 25 cents to the state in the toll, or we can drive around it and buy a can of beer with it. Oh, well, in that case, he exited the turnpike. Cynthia thought that their wagon was big, but this custom cruiser thing descended the ramp like a small airplane. She wondered how Clay was feeling. Hey, Greg, she said, leaning forward in front seat. I talked to Patrick last night. He took his mother to Boston yesterday. Yeah, I know. Cheryl told me. Huh. So did Cheryl tell you he had surgery to save the hand? Greg scratched his sideburn for a moment and then turned right on a big road. She told me Mr. Seaton forced the surgery on him. But they saved his hand. They don't know how much use of it he'll get back, but at least he still has it. Mrs. Seaton's out of her mind, he said quietly. Patrick told Cheryl he'd never seen his parents screaming at each other before. But Clay does have his hand, Cynthia said again. Yeah. As they passed a church, he and Annabelle both made the sign of a cross. Cynthia was starting to feel a little guilty about this trip, with Clay being in the hospital and everything. But what could she do? She couldn't call Clay, could she? You're falling in love with Clay, aren't you? Annabelle whispered. I care a lot about him, but we don't really know each other all that well. Mimi nearly jumped out of the front seat. He's thoughtful and sweet and so good-looking. Who needs to know anything else to love him? She demanded. Sorry, but it's true. She looked at Greg. Clay's crazy about Cynthia. You should see him. I wouldn't go that far, she started to say. But Annabelle cut her off. You're upset about Evan and Katie, though, aren't you? Cynthia leaned toward Annabelle. I saw them kissing this morning. After everyone went to homeroom, they were outside a Sea Wing making out. Annabelle looked shocked. That doesn't sound like Evan. No, I know. And then she had a thought. You don't think Katie told Evan about the drive-in, do you? Why would she? Because she was acting so weird at the drive-in about me and Clay. Weird how? She yelled at me because I kissed his ear. I don't get it, Annabelle said. We were in the food line getting everybody's stuff, and I'd had a few, and he looked at me, and, oh, I don't know, I just did it. It was just a peck on his ear. But I bet he liked it, Annabelle said with a smile. Oh, please, don't you start. The point is, Katie didn't like it, and she yelled at me. She yelled at you? She said, was that kiss for my benefit? As if she had something to do with my date with Clay? So you haven't told Evan anything about Clay? No, I haven't. You said Katie drank a lot that night at the drive-in. Yeah, she guzzled that rock gut. Well, I did too. Is that when you start talking about the Holocaust? Cynthia stared at Annabelle. She kicked her head in Mimi's direction. Mimi mentioned that you were sensitive about Judaism and the Nazis. Cynthia made a face. Everyone should be sensitive about Judaism and the Nazis. Oh, Cynthia, Bibi said. You're not getting all upset about Nazis again, are you? I thought we were going to have fun today. Cynthia dropped her head, giving up. No Nazis today, Mimi, I promise. I must have missed something, Greg said, glancing back at Cynthia. Annabelle looked at her. Are we still going over to her house on Friday? I don't want to, but there's no reason why you can't. Although it has occurred to me she made a date with Charlie Hennessy to go sailing at 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. So I'm not sure what she expects us to do while she's out sailing. And I'm not sure what she's doing going out with Evan if she's going out with... Forget it. Well, maybe she wanted us to come with her. Annabelle. She looked at Cynthia. If she wanted us to go with her sailing, don't you think she would have mentioned it? But how could she be going out with Charlie if she's going out with Evan? Cynthia was sick of the whole subject. So where are we, Greg? I'm all turned around. Are we in Greenwich or where? We're still in Greenwich. He turned left on a big main road, 4 lanes. Boston Post Road. Portchester's right down there. Portchester looked old and crowded, Cynthia thought. She assumed Greenwich must be to Portchester like Brighton was to Norwalk. Greenwich was leafy and green and had shops, and Portchester looked, well, gray and old and had old stores with iron bars over them. Cynthia sniffed. Why do I smell wintergreen? Mimi, are you eating Necco's up there? No, but I smell it too. It smells great. Sure does, Annabelle says. I'm starving. I think I know where it's coming from, Greg said. And in a block or two, you will too. Annabelle was looking around. There sure are a lot of bars. I mean, not nice bars, just bars. There won't be after next month, Greg said, when the drinking age lowers into Connecticut. Well, that's right. That was next month, October. Suddenly, Annabelle dove over the front seat to turn up the radio and started singing along with Joan Baez about old Dixie. Oh, wow, girls, look at that, Bibi cried, pointing through the windshield. Big lifesavers. Yep, Greg said. I think that's where the smell's coming from. Must be wintergreen day. How cool, Cynthia exclaimed. I didn't know there was a lifesaver factory somewhere near us. How come we never went on a field trip here? We went to Pickwick Ice Cream in Stamford that one year, Mimi said. Do you remember that? And how lost Mrs. Allerton got? Cynthia did remember that. It was probably the last time she had spoken to Mrs. Allerton. When was that? 3rd grade? 2nd? Mrs. Allerton had been very nice to everybody, but they drove and drove and drove and nearly missed the whole tour. They were so late. All 4 of the kids who rode with Mrs. Allerton and Clark wrote a thank you note to her, and every single one of them mentioned she had taught them a new phrase, backtrack. The factory was 5 stories high and very old, but the triangular front was grand. The best, though, were these gigantic lifesaver rolls that stood along the front of it. Okay, here's the distributor, Greg announced a couple of blocks down. He parked the station wagon next to a big truck that was loaded with aluminum kegs. An unhappy-looking guy with greasy hair was sitting in a banged-up truck in the parking lot. He was looking the station wagon over. Not quite 12 yet, Patrick announced, looking at his watch. What are you using for an ID? Cynthia asked him. Oh, I borrowed Patrick's. Oh, no, Cynthia laughed. Not Bernard's back. Oh, that Bernard, Mimi laughed. She looked at Greg. Cheryl said Bernard was much nicer than Patrick and gave better Christmas presents. I doubt that, Greg said, taking a pale green license out of his wallet. He studied it a second and handed it back to Cynthia. How would you pronounce that last name? Bachukovian, she guessed. All right, sounds good, he said, taking it back. But it says you're 5'7". Don't worry about it, he said. I've been getting beer here for years. Is there any beer at the open? Mimi asked him. Yeah, but A, it's $1, and B, you guys don't have IDs. Ah, is there a plan afoot, Dr. Watson? Cynthia asked, accepting a cigarette from Annabelle. It's the sheer economics of the thing, Greg said. Now he sounds like your father, Annabelle said, making a snoring sound. A 6-pack here is $1.50, or 25 cents a can. So for $4, we can buy 4 beers at the open. He really was sounding like her father. 4 beers, which you guys can't be seen holding. Or for $4, we can buy 16 cold cans of Bud that we can drink in the car. I want what's behind curtain 2, Monty, Mimi said. Greg climbed out of the car and walked to the door of the distributor, loosening his tie. The door was still locked. He turned around and pointed to his watch and held up 2 fingers. Peering around Greg's blazer, Cynthia saw the eyes of the guy in the crummy truck were on Greg. She could feel his loathing from here. If that guy sticks us up and steals the cars, she says, we're taking the truck with the kegs, okay? Oh, I hope he doesn't pull a gun out and shoot Greg, Annabelle said, leaning forward to see him. He's probably thinking, stinking rich kid. How can he drive a car like that? Look, he's getting out, Mimi said. They watched him. Oh, he's just a little guy, Mimi said. He was pretty short, and he looked a little dirty, Cynthia thought. Oh, look, they're unlocking the front door. Stores open, Mimi said happily. They watched Greg pull the glass door open and go inside. He looked so big and strong compared to the dirty guy who was still limping across the parking lot toward the door. Then he went inside, too. Capitol Theater's just a couple blocks from here, Annabelle said, looking around. I thought so, Cynthia said. No offense, Phoebe said. This neighborhood is giving me the creeps, even in broad daylight. Oh, Mimi, how creepy can a neighborhood be with a lifesaver factory? Annabelle asked her. Turn up the radio, Memes, Cynthia said. I love this song. It was the Moody Blues. The picture in your eyes wasn't the kind of song you sang to, but the girls hummed to it, smiling at the harmony. Great speakers in this car, Annabelle said. Oh, look, here he comes. There's Greg. Someone was holding the door open for Greg as he came out carrying a big styrofoam cooler. He was beaming. Oh, good, it's going to stay cold. He walked up to Annabelle's door, juggled the styrofoam thing. Get out a second, will you? I'm going to put this in the middle. Annabelle climbed out, smoothed her dress while Greg set the cooler down in the middle of the seat. He really had gotten so much older and bigger this summer. Well, manly. Before he left for hockey camp, Greg had grown big mutton chops. The Duke's school had like a month longer of summer vacation, so he got a head start over all the other guys. And his hair got pretty long. But then when he came back last week, the sideburns were gone, and his hair was so short, Annabelle was calling him Baldino. He did look very grown up and sophisticated, certainly well over 18. He didn't really have a girlfriend, Cynthia thought. She wondered if Mimi... Do you have any money? He asked Annabelle when she got back into the car. He was standing there still, holding the door open. You must have enough. No, that's for something else. I need $5. 5 would be good. $5? I don't have $5. I do. Mimi said, opening her purse. I'll pay you back, Mimi, he said, leaning into the car. Mom gave me the exact amount we need for tolls and lunch, and we're going to have to get gas. You're not buying pot, are you? Annabelle said. I don't want to get busted. No. He took the $5 from Mimi. Thanks means I will pay you back. I'm helping a guy out. What guy? The guy, not the guy from the truck, Cynthia said. Oh, I'll tell you about it later, Greg said, closing the door. And then he walked back into the store. That guy from the truck's going to murder us all, Annabelle said. Maybe Greg's just being nice to him. Yeah, well, maybe he's robbing Greg as we speak, Cynthia said. What happened next occurred so swiftly, it was hard to keep track of what was happening. Out of the corner of her eye, Cynthia saw a bright blue Camaro pulling in. A nice one, custom paint. But then she lost sight of it when it moved up to park behind Greg's Blazer somewhere. Annabelle said, nice car. Then Mimi said, here comes Greg. And then suddenly there was a huge crunch in the side of the station wagon, making it rock. Cynthia saw the back end of the Camaro pulling away. He hit us, Mimi said, and he's driving off. In the next second, there were sirens, and a police cruiser tore into the lot to block the Camaro in. Oh, man, Greg cried, running around to look at the side of the wagon. He swore a blue streak, pounded the air with his fists, and then let his arms collapse on top of his head as he turned away. Damage must be bad. Son of a bitch, Greg yelled at the sky. Easy, a cop said, walking up. He looked at the side of the car and whistled. Brand new, too. My father's going to kill me, Greg said. Calm down. It's not your fault, the cop said. We'll get it sorted and your father can get the car fixed. License and registration, please. Greg pulled out his wallet to give him his license and then opened Mimi's door to get the registration out of the glove compartment. Behind them, Cynthia saw, two guys had their hands on the roof of the Camaro and they were being frisked. The cops found something on one of them they seemed pretty excited about. The girls had not said a word thus far, frozen. The door of the distributor opened and a man stepped out and called, Bernard, if you need to make a call, you can use my phone. Thanks, Greg said. Hey, Dennis, the cop called toward the store. The man turned around. Is Bernard a customer of yours? Yeah, he's a good kid. He started to close the door. Hang on, Dennis, the cop called. Funny thing about Bernard. He took a couple of steps towards Dennis and waved the papers Greg had handed him. His license says his name's Gregory Fitzgerald, and he's only 17. Uh-oh. What happens now? The car's smashed up, and they're supposed to be at the open, and the cop... All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're just going to have to tune in next week to see what happens. Thanks so much for listening today. I hope you had fun. It was fun to write. Brings back a lot of memories, let me tell you. Every time I do a reminder about the Detention Club at Patreon, we get new members. So here it is. For $5 a month, you get the weekly clubhouse meeting with all the other members who are the nicest people in America. But you also get access to all kinds of research notes from the episode. You find it by going to the Class of 74 at patreon.com. That's our clubhouse. And every Wednesday evening at 7:30, we have a Zoom call, which is really worth the price of admission. We're no longer talking about specific episodes because everybody's in a different place in the series. But everybody wants to talk about what it was like back in 74, 71, 72, 73. And everybody has a lot of fun. And me, I'm just frantically taking notes. That's it. I want you guys to have a fabulous week. I want you to be well. I want you to do interesting things and have a lot of fun. But just remember, we don't drink and drive anymore. Ever. So I'll see you next week, and I look forward to it.